Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm sure there'll be others joining us too, but thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Norma Loeb, founder of the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center, and I'm really happy to be able to offer this by one of our board members, Pamela Rosenblum, who is a retired psychoanalyst and trauma specialist. And this is her specialty. And she really wanted to share the information that she has and practiced as a private therapist for 30 years in New York City. But in addition to that, her husband had Lewy body dementia. So she worked and cared for, I should say, her beautiful husband for many years as a caregiver. So she knows the stress that everyone here goes through on a daily basis.
Norma, can you just repeat her name for me? For us?
Pamela Rosenblum. Are you not able to see it under
Uh,
her face? I don't know if you
it's
can.
not showing up.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Don't worry, I'll put it in the
Okay,
chat. It's Pamela Rosenblum, Rosenblum. She's on our
okay.
website of the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center, which is lbdny.org. And I'll have that information after. I
Thank you.
want everyone to know that in addition to this being recorded, it will go out in our newsletter this week, probably by Thursday, in case anybody misses it or needs to get off early or know someone else who could be helped by this. We will have time for Q&A. We will certainly have time for questions at different intervals, and Pamela will let you know that. And for those of you who don't know, we have a helpline available at the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center 365 days a year, in addition to support groups, a large website. So please don't hesitate to call us any day of the year. So without further ado, I introduce to you my friend, colleague, and a beautiful person who's willing to help, Pamela Rosenblum. Thank you.
I call you one of my Lewy body soul sisters. So, and if you stick around and stay involved in our resource center, you are a Lewy body soul sister and soul brother, because no one can understand what it's like to deal with a loved one who has Lewy body the way you can. And one of the real reasons I wanted to do this workshop.
Can you get me the headphone thing?
I'm sorry, can I ask everyone to mute themselves? I should have said that before. Thank you. Sorry. Let me just see for those who haven't.
I think everyone's muted now.
Yeah, they're not,
Okay.
But I'll mute them.
All
Okay.
right.
Sorry, Pamela.
That's okay. I was saying the reason I wanted to offer this webinar is caring for my husband for over 6 years with Lewy body dementia and heavy Parkinson's issues. It was a very, very stressful situation. He had throat cancer 10 years ago, and I thought that was stressful. And frankly, not to say that cancer is not hard to deal with, but nothing prepared me for the stress of caring for someone with Lewy body dementia. And I don't know how I would have survived it without Norma Loeb. The first time I spoke to Norma was my husband's neurologist handed me a brochure and said, "You need this woman." And I called Norma, and she was walking on the beach, and she talked to me for an hour, and it was amazing. So that's why I'm here. I want to help you find ways to go through this experience with. There's no way we can really take the stress away, but we can give you some tools to hopefully deal with it and keep your health and keep your sanity. So we have quite a few people here, so I don't want to take too much time, but would anyone want to put their hand up and just share 1 or 2 sentences about what made you decide you wanted to, because I appreciate you're busy, and so you're taking time out of your day to sit down on this webinar. What triggered you signing up for it? Are you feeling particularly stressed right now? Does anyone want to share anything?
Well, I guess I'll share. Can
Sure.
everybody hear me?
Yep.
My wife was diagnosed, although it's always a presumptive diagnosis, with
Yes.
Lewy body. And probably about a year and a half to 2 years ago. Prior to that, she had really unspecified mild cognitive impairment. We sold our house, moved to a one-level thing at the suggestion of my sons. This situation has become so stressful for me that I have developed chronic insomnia.
Okay. All right. So
I'm probably going to be seeing a sleep therapist about it. And it's difficult. She's lost the ability.
Sure.
90% of her
Joseph,
ability
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really appreciate you just saying insomnia. Like, you're really under a tremendous amount of stress.
Yeah,
And,
that kind of says it.
yeah. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I didn't want to monopolize it.
I would love this to be able to morph into a support group too, and let everyone talk.
No problem. No problem.
Does anyone else just want to say insomnia? Anything else? How is stress expressing itself in your life? Jane.
I can't remember what to do when I'm not caretaking.
Ah.
I'm so on
Yeah.
that to turn off to unwind has been, I'm having to relearn that.
Okay. Good point. Okay. Anybody
Pamela,
else?
somebody else just said also insomnia and IBS in the chat.
Oh yeah. Gastrointestinal issues. Sure. Anybody else want to throw something into the mix?
Well, I used to be a sound sleeper, but not anymore.
Right.
Not
Sleep.
anymore.
Yeah. Sleep is
Yeah.
And I've lost, just to add one other quick thing. I've lost all sense of time. If you ask me what I did this morning in the afternoon, I can't remember it. I'm living moment to moment.
Yeah.
Right.
It is bizarre.
I can hear the stress in people's voices. Yes. Anybody else? One or two more. Tim. Yeah.
Yeah. I just find myself very confused and very frustrated that my inability to understand that illness that befell us, and it takes a huge physical, because my husband now is more, it's the Parkinson than the Lewy body. Huge toll on my body.
Right. Absolutely. Aches and pains, exhaustion.
Yeah.
Right.
And the sadness is it's like it sits like a ton on me.
Right. All right.
All
Well,
of
I
the
know
above.
we could continue really just listing it, but I want to get into what we can do. Are there any things? And as I say, we can't take this stress away from you. We give you some tools for dealing with it. And if everyone could mute themselves again, I'd really appreciate it, so everyone can hear well. So as I said, the goal today is to find out who of you already has some specific things you do to proactively address your stress. And I imagine some of you don't have anything like that. You just grab some moments of relaxation when you can. And I want to add support to those of you that already have some sort of practices going, and make some suggestions. And we're going to actually first talk about the nervous system, what stress is actually doing in your nervous system and why. Because when we can understand what the nervous system is doing, we can begin to understand how we can intervene and help your nervous system be calmer when there are moments that would be an opportunity to be calm. Because that's often a problem. When you finally have downtime, you're revved up someone said you can't even think about anything else. So we want you to be able to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is to talk briefly about the nervous system. And some of you may know this. I don't know what your careers are here, but if you do know some of the nervous system information I'm going to give you, please bear with me. Basically, I'm going to make it very simple. The brains we have evolved while we were hunter-gatherers. And our brains are beautifully designed to respond to stress, but not to live in a constant state of stress. So our nervous system has the part we're going to talk about is the autonomic nervous system. Some of you have probably heard of it. You can also think of it as the automatic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is the part of our nervous system that does everything that we don't have to tell it to do. We don't have to tell our heart to beat. We don't have to tell our lungs to breathe in and out if we're healthy. Our temperature is regulated by this part of our nervous system. Our digestion, our elimination, it goes on and on. Stress impacts all of the autonomic nervous system because within the autonomic nervous system, there are two functions. One is the parasympathetic nervous system, which we can think of it as the gas pedal on. The parasympathetic nervous system gets you up in the morning. If I stand up from this chair, my parasympathetic nervous system is working. It's working with me right now to keep me talking to you and engaged with you. And it's working with you now to be engaged in this webinar. The parasympathetic nervous system is the complementary part of the autonomic nervous system. That is the brake. So we think about the gas pedal and the brake. The parasympathetic is also called the rest and reset nervous system. So I'm going to share my screen and show you first what a healthy autonomic nervous system looks like. Where is my screen share, Norma? There it is. Okay. Norma knows she's just teaching me how to do this. Okay. All right. Can everyone see? Oh, how do I get that? Can everyone see a square that says nervous system regulation?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone can see that. And it says sympathetic in red, normal range in green, parasympathetic in blue. And the space between those two lines is what we call your range of resilience. And so when you're having an okay day, if the day is going fairly well, your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system works together in a wonderful wave-like motion. And a way to think about it is, if you're a driver, is, when you're on the West Side Highway or where the Long Island Expressway or whatever, you don't just drive with your foot on the gas pedal the whole time. You have to sometimes go back and hit the brakes a little bit, and then a little more gas, but you're not flooring it and you're not slamming on the brakes, right? But when the nervous system, let me see if I can go to, here is a dysregulated nervous system, and I apologize for this not being wonderfully technically beautiful. You can see we have the same range of resilience here, but now the black line is the sympathetic nervous system. Can everybody
Pamela,
see it? Yeah.
You're still on the first slide.
Oh, okay. So
Just
close
that
I'm going
one.
to do stop share. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm going to go back to share and find the dysreg. I see what you're saying, Norma. All right. Thank you, people. I've never done this particular. You see it now?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Everyone sees up. Now the other one popped up. Can you see the one?
No,
with the
we only see the second one. That's all.
You
with the
see the black
lines.
line. Okay, the black lines, and it says traumatic event. You don't have to pay attention to the traumatic event, but I'm using this as an example of the sympathetic nervous system is like when you have to really give it the gas, and that happens to our brains all the time living in the 21st century. Many people are walking around with a dysregulated nervous system, but caregivers are especially, and I think some of you can relate to this, you have this hypervigilance that you live in. You never know what your loved one with Lewy body is going to do. Is it going to be an easy day or a difficult day? Are they going to hallucinate within the next hour? Or are they going to just seem almost like their old selves? My husband used to sometimes really throw me for a loop because he'd hallucinate all morning, and then all afternoon, it would almost be like he was back. And I would get caught arguing with him as if he was still healthy. So this is the nervous system stuck up here. And when you're stuck up there, your parasympathetic system cannot bring you down into rest and reset. And unfortunately, sometimes the parasympathetic system gets stuck on, and that leads to a feeling of lethargy, depression, the foggy thinking. No one used that term, foggy thinking, but difficulty thinking. And that's when you're stuck in the, your parasympathetic is trying to calm you down, but it gets stuck down there in it. I'm going to stop sharing right now. Does anyone have any questions, quick questions about this? Because I'd like it to be clear. Because our goal today is to help you reset, find certain techniques to reset that nice wave of sympathetic, parasympathetic. Any questions? Karen, you look real confused. Okay, good. All right. Anybody at all?
Yes.
Yes. Eileen.
Exaggerated startle.
Yeah.
What exactly? Is that easily startled?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And that's when someone's hypervigilant, their brain is looking. Again, think of us as you're going to hear me talk about our hunter-gatherer brain all the time. Being startled is the first response we have to a threat. And as Homo sapiens, we get startled, we orient, we look. If a loud noise happened in your room right now, you would not be able to control it. Your nervous system would make you orient and turn toward the loud noise to check out what it is. And then the sympathetic nervous system is ready to go into fight or flight. So it's all very primitive in a way. I mean, it really evolved so we could run away from a saber-toothed tiger or hide. But, when your loved one when you're so stressed, you're in this heightened state of constantly expecting danger. Does that answer your question? And yeah, so you're easily startled. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? We'll move on. Yeah, Arthur.
Is crying or rage, would be healthy to relieve?
Well, it's interesting. I made a point of adding to my notes today to talk about anger and crying. And I think there's a little bit of both here. If you're finding yourself having uncontrolled anger, and so I have to say, sometimes I was so angry when my husband was sick, and other members of our group have talked about that. That's not always, that's a sign of the sympathetic, that's the fight, you're triggered into fight or flight, and your nervous system wants to fight, but who is there to fight? You don't want to, there's no outlet for it, so you go into a rage.
Wouldn't that be an outlet though?
That's just it. It's like, I think, and we all have to know that nuance for ourselves. I think it's very healthy for people to be able to go in a room. I know one of our dear one of our dear exactly. Mary Lou, our dear board member who just wrote a wonderful memoir and has been touring and helping raise awareness about Lewy body. I don't think she'd mind at all, Norma, my sharing. She
Yeah.
often shares that she would go into her office because her apartment, she had an office across the hall from where she was with her husband, and she would go in there, and she's not someone who curses, but she would scream, as she would say, the F word at the top of her lungs.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so yes, I think sometimes, but when you find yourself triggered into rage and it comes out against your loved one, or it comes out against a family member, or, you know, I mean, sometimes I was a little nasty to some neighbors because I felt like people said stupid things. You know, I mean, then it's not, then it's a real sign of stress. So that's a great question, Arthur. And I think crying is the same thing. Uncontrolled crying, when you just can't stop crying, you can't pull yourself out of that despondency, that's a sign that you really need some help. But on the other hand, having a good cry can actually, they've discovered that having what we call a good cry, right?
What would be considered a good cry? Because
good-
I
well-
find myself crying when my wife is almost like 80% of herself or 70% of her old self.
Right.
And then she starts hallucinating and seeing
Yeah.
things that aren't there. And when she fluctuates between the two from one moment to another, I
Right.
find myself having to go and just have a cry.
Well, I think, and I hate to be so gender
Not all
specific
the time
about it,
now.
but I think women are a little more capable of saying whether they know what a good cry is. So I would love to help you with that, Arthur. I think for me, a good cry, and I'd like to see a nod of heads if anyone agrees with this, is do you feel a little bit better after you've cried? Yeah.
Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah. Well, when you do, that's a good cry. And I will say, I was going to say this toward the end, but I will share it now. And I know Norma's heard me say it. I'm a person who I know it helps me to have a good cry frequently. And I have Spotify on my phone, and the years while my husband was sick, I found that if a song helped me to cry, triggered me to have a good cry, I would add it, and I created a Spotify playlist called Need to Cry. And sometimes I would be so stressed and worn out at the end of the day. I wouldn't do this when I had to be caring for him, but when I had time, I would put that playlist on and just help myself cry. So that's a little thing some of you may consider. Some people, they don't relate to that at all, but other people may. So good. If it feels a little better at the end, then it's a good cry. Yeah. All right. So we have this parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system that gets thrown off, and then it becomes chronic stress. And what does that mean, chronic stress? When your sympathetic nervous system is triggered because it thinks there's danger. Again, you have to understand this is a very primitive part of our brain. So it isn't distinguishing between a saber-toothed tiger running after us and, oh my God, my husband's just left the building and I don't know where he went. You know, they're to the part of the brain that's triggered, it's danger. And so you get a rush of adrenaline and a rush of the whoop. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, you're fine, Pamela.
Okay.
Nothing changed.
Well, I just lost you. Hold on. I can't see you all.
Oh.
There you are. Okay.
We see you. Okay.
My computer just asked me if I wanted an automatic update. My sympathetic nervous system went, whoa, like that. What was I saying? See, there's an example. The sympathetic.
You were mentioning if your husband left the apartment.
Yeah,
what
your
happened?
brain doesn't distinguish between those two. And so you get a big rush of adrenaline and you get a big rush of cortisol, the other stress hormone. But then when the threat is over, your parasympathetic system is designed to help you discharge that adrenaline and let it go. But we often can't do it when we're constantly being triggered. So what can we do about it? Let me just go through here. We talked about certain symptoms, and a lot of you came up with a really good list, and you're all having your own particular signs of stress. People mentioned sleep. That's a huge one. Digestive issues, foggy thinking. Do some people relate to the expression wired and tired? You're exhausted, but you also are kind of revved up at the same time. That is the sympathetic and parasympathetic stuck on. And I've heard it described as it's like driving a car with the emergency brake on. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all. So I'm going to take you through just 3, if we have time, I think we will, 3 exercises. 2 of them are breathing exercises, and 1 of them is another kind of exercise, because not everyone loves breathing exercises. But why do we focus on breathing? I'm sure all of you are aware of, there's so many things out there on the internet about mindfulness, about breath work, and there are wonderful, wonderful resources. And we are going to provide you, right, Norma, with a list of resources, of links to various things on the internet that you can look up to expand on what we're talking about today. But breath work really can directly impact your nervous system. So the first one is, everyone willing to actually do a little, about a 2 or 3 minute exercise together? Okay, all right. And some of you maybe do this. Does anyone here do yoga or meditation? Anybody? Yeah, some people do. So some of you are going to be aware of this. You're going to say, oh, I know this, but it's important to be reminded. So the first one basically is your out breath, paying attention to your out breath. And this is why. When we're triggered, when you're dealing with a crisis with your loved one, or even now as you're sitting here and you're wondering, are they going to stay asleep? I don't know where your loved ones are all right now, but I know that any minute some of you could be interrupted with a problem, right? Your breathing is generally pretty shallow and pretty fast. So what we want to do is slow the breathing down. And it doesn't really matter if you breathe into the count of 4 or breathe into the count of 3 or 6, but we want to make the out breath longer by a few beats than the in breath. And when we do that, the parasympathetic nervous system begins to come into regulation. And a study was done, and I could not find, I had seen it once before, but an actual study was done. They took a control group of people and tested their cortisol, and they took caregivers. And caregivers had elevated cortisol, stress hormone, compared to the general population. And they taught the caregivers the exercise I'm going to teach you, and they had them do it just 3 times a day, which sounds like a lot, but for only 2 minutes each time. So we're talking a total of 6 minutes a day. And in 6 weeks, they measured their cortisol levels again, and they were down to the normal level. So this is a really simple exercise that can have a huge impact on your health. So I'm going to demonstrate it, and then we're going to do it. And I even have an old-fashioned timer that I'm going to use. And we're going to do it together for 2.5 minutes. Okay? And basically, I'm going to count you through it. We're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, before we begin, you may find either now or at some future date when you want to practice this, that your breathing doesn't feel good and it's really hard to slow down that out breath. That's because you're really in a triggered state at that moment. So a trick is to breathe through a straw. So I don't expect any of you to be sitting there with a straw handy. If you happen to be, grab the straw. But you can also do this by just pretending you're breathing through the straw. So it would go like this. I breathe in. And then the straw just helps you slow your breathing down. So let's, everybody willing to try it? I'm going to count us through. Get yourself comfortable. You can do this eyes open or closed, whatever you're comfortable with. Think of this as just a very short mini vacation. Okay, all that matters right now. Yeah, great. Joan has a straw. And when everyone's ready, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, through the mouth, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose if you can. In, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4. And out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. And out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. And out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. And out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how does that feel to everyone? Any questions? Did you observe anything?
I had a quick question. When
Sure.
we're breathing in through the nose after the count of, say, 4, should we hold our breath before beginning the exhale or just
Well,
continuous?
there are there are so many different styles of breathing. In yogic breathing, you would, but you should do what's comfortable. The important thing is to let it flow in sort of naturally. There's always a sort of gentle pause up there anyway. So just notice the pause and then let the breath do it at once and come out again. And same thing at the bottom, you know, when you get to the bottom and the breath is out, there's a little pause. So you just really want to honor your breath, honor what your body wants to do.
I want to breathe in really fast.
You want to breathe in real fast? That is your sympathetic nervous system trying to keep you triggered. Yeah. So see if you can breathe in slowly. And the straw can be helpful. I didn't notice it, Lynn, if you had a straw with you, but the straw can be helpful because once you focus on the out breath and get that slower, the in will slow down.
Okay, I can do the out, but I can't get the in 4. It comes in 1, 2, 3.
If you do it for a little longer, you know, it'll come because if it can be slower, that's better. But just the fact that you're getting the out breath longer. I had a dear friend who was terrified of flying, and I was doing some hypnosis with her around it. And then I taught her this, and she literally brings a straw with her on the airplane, and it really helps her. She, all through takeoff and landing, she breathes through a straw. Any other?
Yeah, I felt that I got calmer, and but I felt better. I had my hands folded together,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt it better when I had my hands on my legs.
Okay.
I felt more calmer.
Good. I mean, it's, you know, as you do these kinds of things, this is such a simple thing. And we're talking about 3 minutes, right? You can begin to go into your body and notice, like, well, when do I feel calmer? So if that feels calmer to you, let your hands be resting on your legs, or, you know, feel your feet on the floor, or do it laying on your back. It doesn't matter. You know, you ask your body what feels good right now. And the more you practice this, the more, and that's what I also wanted to say about all these things. I'm going to do another breathing one with you, and then another slightly different one that you might find interesting is it's good to do these. Let's say you've had a particularly really rough hour or so. And I know with myself, I would get my husband, you know, into his nap. I needed my lunch, you know, and it was good to do this kind of breathing then. But it's also good to just have it be part of your routine. So I always say, you know, you don't always feel like brushing your teeth, but I bet most of the time you do brush your teeth, right? And this is sort of the same thing. You can't.
What if you're hyperventilating?
What's that?
What if you're hyperventilating?
Well, hyperventilating is a little more going to happen, like when Lynn. That's why I was trying to help Lynn not go, because hyperventilating is.
Yeah, you can't catch your breath.
You can't catch your breath, and it really triggers adrenaline. That's why you want to go. And there are other things you can learn. I wish we had 3 hours. I mean, maybe we'll do a follow-up, Norma, because if you're really hyperventilating and you're having trouble, you can also do this. Can people see me? Tap. Just tap and breathe. Breathe in and out. Because this is stimulating the left and right brain and can be very calming. Doesn't it sort of feel good even now? Back.
Well, I'm not hyperventilating, but it feels good.
Well, and then if you think about doing this as you feel your feet on the floor, and then as you breathe in, to whatever count. Just make that out breath even 1 beat slower. That's all you need to do. And your breath will slow down. And you'll begin to not hyperventilate. So add this one in. I hadn't even thought about teaching you all this today, but this is a good one that you can do whenever you're breathing. So now I'm going to teach you another breathing exercise, which isn't that much different, but it's really good when you're having, I find, a really panicky situation. And I will tell you, well, let me tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you about a time I used it to really, I don't know how I would have survived without it. This is the same breathing, but when we breathe out, we're going to make a sound. And the sound, I always invite people to say, I want you to sound like you're a foghorn. The sound you make is VOO, V-O-O-O-O. And you're going to feel silly, but you're all muted, so we can't hear you. So don't worry about it. You're going to hear me, and I don't care about being silly. Okay, so we breathe in, and then we're going to go VOO. For as long as you can, and then breathe in. I don't even count it. And then why do we do this? You'll notice if you do it and make it as low as you can. That's why I say a foghorn sound. You'll notice that you'll feel your face vibrating, your throat vibrating, your chest, even sometimes down into your belly vibrating. This is stimulating your ventral vagal nerve, which is an important part of our nervous system. And it is extremely calming. It will lower your blood pressure. If you sit and do it for 5 minutes, it will lower your blood pressure. Particularly, I think it lowers the bottom number, which we all want to make sure is lower. I use this when I'm very anxious. Anytime in my life, but I'll tell you a particular story. A few Christmases ago, it was the Christmas before COVID. My husband hadn't been diagnosed for that long. I was visiting with my husband in central Pennsylvania, which is a 4-hour drive from New York City. And it was Christmas, and the next day after Christmas, everyone had been at the Christmas dinner, got the flu. And it was awful. So we ended up staying at my sister's house 5 nights instead of 2. And when a person with Lewy body and Parkinson's has the flu, he couldn't even move. It was so stressful. You know, doctor's calls and blah, 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 blah. We finally, we were all getting a little better by day 5. I was ready to drive him home. It was freezing cold. The battery on my car was dead. I mean, this was one of those stress situations where you want to scream. And I got a new battery for the car. We got the car all packed up. I got my husband in the car, and it started to snow. I said, we have to go. We have to go. And it was a 4-hour drive. And I thought, how am I going to do this? And I got my husband in the car. I put some music on. He fell asleep. I did this VOO breathing for at least the first half hour of driving. And I'm telling you, I literally felt the moment. It took about 20 minutes when my nervous system went, ah. And I felt, okay, I can do this drive. I can do this. So this is a really powerful breathing exercises. So everybody ready to try it? We'll just do it for like 2 minutes. Make it sound like a foghorn. Keep yourself muted, because I think it would be crazy if we all could hear each other. But make sure you do it as low as you can. And as you're doing it, feel your body. Where do you feel it vibrating? And don't rush it. I don't want people to hyperventilate. Jane asked, what did you ask, Jane? Can you just say it? Where are you?
Would it be helpful to have our loved ones share the breathing exercises when they get agitated?
I think if that would be a wonderful thing to do if your loved one can follow the instructions. Not everyone. I think it depends what stage of the disease they're in. Some certainly could, and why not? And then you're doing this nice kind of calming activity together. You know, it could be very nice. But I think that would be, everyone would just have to assess. I know my husband would not have been able to do that with me.
Some
Okay.
days yes, some days no. Some moments yes, some moments no.
Exactly, exactly. And also, you know, you can gently pat their deltoid muscles here like this and just speak calmly to them. Yeah. So let's try the vooing, shall we? Everybody up for making a foghorn sound? Here we go. And I'm just gonna get you started, and then I'm just gonna let you continue on your own, because everyone's breath is a different rate. So I don't want you to rush. Let the voo be nice and long and slow. Okay. And we're gonna inhale and voo. Voo. I'm just going to let you all hear me doing it, but you don't have to do it at my pace. Ooh. 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 Okay, that was about 1.5 minutes. And how did that feel to people? Any comments, concerns, questions?
I could feel the vibration in my throat and in my chest.
Good, good. That's wonderful. Did it feel good? Did it feel sort of good?
Felt calming.
Good, good.
Felt calming.
Great, wonderful. Lynn's dog is looking at her like she's crazy. Yeah. Joe.
My arms got calmer. My arms.
Good. Yeah.
My
Well,
hands.
we are a whole body. We are a whole mind body. Excellent. Joan. Yeah.
I feel some discomfort in my ears.
Okay. Well, maybe you have a little sinus congestion. You know, I mean, I think, you know, I'm teaching you things and it may not be the right one for you, or it may not be the right one for you today. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I will tell you the great thing, I've used this. I tend to have, my family has a family tradition of getting high blood pressure very young, very early in life. And so I've been dealing with that for several decades. And I always have spiked blood pressure in doctor's offices. So I decided I was going to start to do VU on my way to doctors. And invariably, my blood pressure is lower when I've been doing this on the way to the appointment. So it's that's my little one subject study.
But not in the waiting room.
No, not in the waiting room. No. But you know, if you get really comfortable doing this, you can do it very quietly and still feel the vibrating. So I've done it on the bus. Because in New York, who cares? Nobody bothers you if you're crazy in New York.
I find these get easier as you do it.
Yes.
But by the end, it feels much more natural. I also wanted to say about the blood pressure. Several years ago, I had high blood pressure for the first time in my life ever. And a regular doctor who's been treating me for a long time said, I'd like you to go to the cardiologist and just check it out.
Sure.
So I went, and I was my first time with him, and he took my blood pressure and it was high, and we talked for a while, and he asked me what's going on. And I said, my mother's dying. My husband has Lewy body, and I'm going through the whole list. And as we're going there, he has me standing against a wall, my back to the wall, and doing breathing exercises. And then he had me do a couple of others, and then he took my blood pressure and it dropped.
Excellent.
And he ended by saying, my heart is fine, but I'm living life, and sometimes life can change your body.
Sounds like a good cardiologist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the breathing is amazing because it really does.
Yeah.
You know,
this is not, because stress is not, we often think that stress is psychological. It has a psychological impact, but it lives in your body, your nervous system. That's why gastrointestinal issues. I do VU in the middle of the night if I wake up and I can't sleep. I'm having a lot less stress since my husband sadly is not with me anymore, but I have residual because we get habituated to this kind of stress. So the VU is really good in the middle of the night. Good. Norma, are you here? Where'd she go?
I am.
Oh, do we have time for me to teach one more?
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
do.
Good. I want to now shift focus a little bit, and it's interesting I said focus because I want to introduce you to this idea of the open focus brain. And again, we have to go back to the hunter-gatherers. Imagine you are living on like the savannah or something with your other cave dwellers, right? And you either, if you're a man, you're going to go hunting. It was a very gendered society then, right? The men had to go hunting and the women gathered carrying the babies around on their hips. But what you had to do to hunt or to find what you were going to gather and eat is you had to narrow your focus down, right? To see the prey or to see the berries in the bushes. But generally speaking, our brains evolved that we're not supposed to be in this narrow focus all the time. The narrow focus is for very specific survival activity. And there's a man out of Princeton named Les Femi. And you'll see this is on your resource sheet that we're going to share with you. He is a biofeedback psychologist out of Princeton. And he wanted to figure out how can we trigger in the brain the calming brain waves. Because it's not quote normal. It's become normal in our 21st century. We're all living in a narrow focus all the time. When we are looking at our phones, when we're looking at traffic and driving, when we're reading a book, everything we do is narrow focus, sending a text, all of that. And our brains really evolved to want to be in what is called diffuse or open focus, and we rarely get to access that. So I'm going to walk you through a guided, I guess, meditation, we can call it, so you can begin to experience it. But I want you to imagine right now, because I know you've all had probably one or both of these experiences. Many people love to sit on the beach and stare at the ocean, right? And you hear the waves rolling in, and you find yourself not thinking so much. And the waves are rolling in, and you're aware of the whole width of the beach, and you get not quite sleepy, but kind of calm. Do some people enjoy sitting on the beach?
Gary ate one of these. I didn't finish mine. I guess.
And everybody.
Someone just joined with the phone. The person who just joined with the phone, I need you to be on mute. I'm putting you on mute. Sorry, Pamela.
That's okay. So
I'm not, we're not seeing, okay, we can see you now.
yeah, sitting on the beach. And the other one is the nice feeling that some people have of sitting in front of a fireplace. You have your cup of tea and everyone's had a good dinner, maybe Thanksgiving or something, and you're staring at the fire and you just find yourself sort of staring and calm. Those are two examples in our lives of open focus or diffuse awareness. And when you're in that state or staring out at mountains in a beautiful natural setting, you get triggered into alpha waves. Some of you may remember there was a book out years ago called The Relaxation Response. That's what this is. This is the relaxation response. So Les Femi has come up with certain guided meditations, and you can access them on SoundCloud. And again, this is all going to be on your resource page. But I'm going to just walk you through one now. And I think you'll find it somewhat enjoyable and interesting because it's a little different than most. It's not a breathing technique. It's just you're going to listen to my voice and let your attention do what I suggest we do. So if everyone could get comfortable and feel your feet on the floor if you're sitting up. And I would suggest, Arthur already enjoyed having his hands resting on his legs, right, Arthur? If everyone could just let your hands rest on your thighs. And I'd like you can do this with your eyes closed to get started. I'd like you to just put your attention on your right hand. Just feel your right hand. Let your awareness notice that your hand has some weight to it, that it probably feels a little warmer on the side that's against your leg and maybe cooler on the top. Notice the space around your hand. If your fingers are a little spread, there's space between. Just notice that. Just let yourself be aware without analyzing it. You're not measuring it. You're not thinking about it. You're just noticing the space that your hand takes up on your thigh. And now, while you're aware of your right hand, expand your awareness to become aware of your left hand. So now you can be aware of your left hand. What does it feel like? Tingling? Just notice any sensations. And notice that you can be aware of your right hand and your left hand. And then notice that you can be aware of the space in between your hands. Not measuring it, not thinking about it, just aware that, oh, in your awareness now are both hands and this space in between your hands. And as you just rest your awareness there, you can then expand your awareness to include your thighs and your hands and the space between your hands. And you can expand your awareness to include your leg, both legs, your feet, and all the space that your body inhabits, and the space between your feet. And then, as you stay aware, gently resting your awareness, you can also become aware of the sounds around you. Maybe there are some quiet, subtle sounds in your room. Maybe there are some sounds outside. You can just rest your awareness on the sounds and your hands and the space between your hands. And then you can become aware of the space behind you, in the room behind you. All the space that's behind your body as you're aware of the sounds. And you're aware of the space in front of you. And the entire space in the room around you. No need to picture it. No need to think about it. Just aware of the space. And then, if you wish, as you maintain this awareness of the sounds, of your body, of your hands, of the space around you, you can open your eyes very gently and become aware of what's around you. You can see things without moving your eyes. You can see things in the space to your left, in front of you, and to your right. And just as you hold that awareness, gently resting, not really doing anything, just resting in that awareness of all the space around you, the sounds around you. Just sit for a few beats in silence, in that diffuse attention. And notice that the chatter in your brain is quieter, or maybe even stopped. So, how was that for people? Any comments, questions? Karen?
I found it so relaxing. I want to go to sleep. Of course, I didn't get enough sleep last night, and
yeah.
But the cumulative effect of the exercises that you've led us through.
Good, you're calmer. You're ready. You probably need a nap.
Yeah.
Napping is good. Napping is good.
Right.
Any other reactions, questions about this one? This is I find this one really interesting. Yeah, Deborah. Deborah, can you unmute?
She's saying this session was excellent, is what she wrote in the chat.
Oh, okay.
She said this session was excellent, so great for caregivers without much time to relax.
All right.
Thank you. She said thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
I would just like to say that this is a very good exercise, and it's something, not exactly, but like what I've been doing in meditation for quite a while. And what I want to tell people is that as you do it on a regular basis, the calmness stays for longer after you've finished. So Whereas sometimes, I mean, assuming that a huge
Thing
kind of
doesn't
arise.
Right.
But
Yeah.
over time, doing this actually helps your body to stay in that quieter place for longer.
Thank you, Zola. And thank you. You reminded me that I wanted to add, you can actually, especially if you do this open focus exercise on a regular basis, then when you are out in the world, I was thinking, for an example, say you're sitting in the doctor's waiting room with your Lewy body partner, and you're sitting there waiting for the appointment. You can very simply, nothing fancy, feel your feet and tune in. I often start first to my peripheral vision, because just tuning into your peripheral vision calms your nervous system, takes us out of that narrow hypervigilant focus, and it automatically begins to calm you. And then you can feel your body in the chair. And thank you, Zola. That's absolutely accurate. Yeah.
Pamela, Randy had mentioned before, I just want to say, she said VU, she wrote it in the chat, is not good for someone who has orthostatic hypotension. Well, Pamela is offering this for caregivers who we're assuming do not have that issue, because a lot of people with Lewy body do have it.
They do have that
for
issue.
pointing that out.
Yes,
because we don't want someone whose
we don't
pressure.
want someone to faint. No.
And also, there are people who tend to get very dizzy. If you do, you can do this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pamela. You can do some of the breathing instead of for 2 to 3 minutes. Some people get very dizzy. You can do it even for a minute.
Yes,
helps.
And that's
completely.
why the breathing through the straw one is particularly good, because you're not going to hyperventilate. It's going to really slow you down. Yeah.
And Brandy also said her back hurts sitting straight doing this. So would you say you can everybody, you have to readjust for any issues that you have. Can you lay down as well, Pamela, to do this?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, and I know we need to wrap up, but these are just suggestions that I hope you can incorporate into your life. Find, like Arthur said, he noticed if he put his hands on his legs, it felt, what works for you? Do this lying down. Any of these can be done lying down. And I would also add, think about, I want you to put yourself, it's, that old corny thing that we always are reminded on the airplane, to put the mask on yourself first. But this is a version, having some sort of regular stress reduction practices is a way of putting the mask on yourself. And I know for quite a few years with my husband, after I would get him in bed at night, I'm a bath person. I took a warm bath. And then I would stretch. I had this whole routine. And part of me just wanted to collapse or have a glass of wine and go to bed. But I found that if I just did these things, my bath, then my stretching. So there's so many other things that are good for you, for your stress, to deal with your stress. Going for a walk with friends, stretching before you go to bed, a warm bath, yoga. I don't know if any, some people find yoga is very hard on their knees. I can't do inversions anymore, but I listed a website called Do Yoga With Me, which is free. And I do yin yoga, which is all very slow, very calming, easy, comfortable poses that you hold for quite a long time. Finding some way to laugh. Finding, whatever it is. I mean, I have to admit, the other night I fell down the Instagram rabbit hole and I was laughing so hard at cats and dog videos. But, it was fun. So laughter, being with friends, and really thinking of how important you are to you. Because we sort of forget ourselves in the midst of caregiving. So having said that,
Pamela,
Any-
thank you.
Right.
Did anyone have any questions
Any
before
other
we?
questions?
I just, if anyone
Yeah.
had questions, I just want to remind, because some people came in later and didn't know and are asking, this is being recorded and we will be sending it as part of our newsletter this week. If you are not, for whatever reason, signed up for our newsletter, please go, you can email me at norma@lbdny.org, norma@lbdny.org, and I'll be happy to add you to the newsletter list so that you get it. If you need anything, I just want everybody else to know that we have caregiver support groups. Joan Kleineman Brown is on right now, who leads the ATM group, which is at this moment. Joan, would you like to say something for a moment on it before we
Oh, hi,
get off, if
Joan.
you'd like?
Joan, I'm glad to meet you. I'm glad
Hi,
you're running that group.
nice to meet you. This was terrific. I enjoyed this myself. And we're meeting, I think it's the first and third Wednesdays. We do meet 30 minutes later than Norma's group because I'm not a morning person. That's the only
Good.
And everyone is welcome to come when you feel like it, when you can, stay as long as you can or as short as you can. It's really there just for you.
Thank you, Joan. And so
And could I
again,
just-
we have two caregiver support groups. One is the regular support group, which has been going on for almost 15 years now, that I lead and Pamela leads sometimes. It's for caregivers in the New York City metro area, generally speaking. And you're there to talk, we are there for you to talk about any issue that you need to. Joan's group is specifically a newer group that you are talking only about yourself and not the person that you're
Excellent.
caring for.
Wonderful.
And so,
Well, you know, sometimes we do cross the line.
Well, you
yes,
have
I'm
to.
sure. Yes.
More than sometimes.
But
Yes.
it's less than informational, I think.
No, it's not informational. I'm not able to
Informational, come to
provide-
art. Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to reiterate, and I know I'm sort of repeating myself, but and Zola really helped me remember to say this, that the more you do these practices, the more you do whatever you choose to do. I also was looking at my list. I recommended stretching. For some of you, I recommend prayer. I became a prayer during this period. Not everyone is. Crying, letting yourself cry, singing, dancing, whatever works for you. I also had a playlist called Angry Playlist. And when I would go for my walk and I'd be so angry, I would, Sympathy for the Devil really got me through some days. But you're retraining your nervous system to be able to reset. So it takes time and it takes a regularly paying attention. So I'm going to leave you with that.
Thank you, Pamela. I also wanted to say that Marjorie asked earlier on when you were talking about the playlist to help you cry. She was wondering if you would share the playlist. I don't know if you still have that, but
I do have the playlist and people have asked me for it, but I don't recommend you having my playlist because
right, you want them to have their own.
It's a very weird playlist, which I don't mind you. There are songs on there though that I know someone else will go, what is she talking about?
Right.
And you listen to music when I don't know about you, but music makes me cry sometimes. I mean, I challenge anyone to hear the theme song to Schindler's List and not cry. So certain music really, if it triggers you, put it on your playlist. So I don't mean to be stingy.
No, but we're all affected differently. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it needs to be your playlist. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. Pamela, I just want to tell you, I've known some of the breathing techniques for a long time. I didn't know about open focus, which it feels incredible to do. And I think somebody asked, can you start with the bottom of your feet if you've had,
you can do anywhere. And I would really recommend, you can Google open focus, openfocus.org, I think it is, and learn a lot about it. SoundCloud has free Les Femi. He does some very strange ones to invite you. He has you actually picture the space inside your mouth and inside your head. But I decided to do one that's external, a little less.
Okay, and we will, I want to say we will have a list accompanying the newsletter, the recording in the newsletter. So because Pamela listed many websites that you can use and a couple of apps to help you to go forward with what you
Right.
did. today.
We didn't even get to talk about tapping, which is, some people maybe do this tapping thing, and also Qigong. I do Qigong, and I listed my Qigong teacher on.
Maybe we can have a follow-up in the new year.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Pamela. Joan, did you have one more question before we close?
You know, your meditation reminded me a great deal of yoga nidra. I don't know
Yes.
if it's with that.
Yes.
And one can go on YouTube and do yoga nidra.
Yeah.
And there are specific ones that are to help you fall asleep.
Go to sleep. Right.
Yeah, and they're really good.
Yeah. There are thank you, Joan. There's so many resources that we can use as long as we use them. So pick what works for you, and take good care of yourselves, as you are obviously trying to do by being here today. Thank you.
I really want to thank all of you for attending. It seems there's a lot of good feedback in the chat, Pamela, that they found it really helpful. I'm grateful to you, my friend, for offering this and giving us so much great information. So I want to wish everybody happy holidays, happy and healthy new year. Please don't hesitate to call or email if you need anything or any additional information anytime.
Right. Wonderful.
Thank you again,
Thank you,
Pamela.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Norma, you want to stay on a minute?
Yes, I do. We may need to come back on. Let's just see a minute.
Yeah.
2 more minutes. I'm waiting for 2 more people to get up. Okay. I think so. We can end this, Pamela, and come back on, okay?
Right, good.
Okay.
See you in a bit.